Alright, in this video we'll talk about how to build in the modules section. So the first thing that we want to do is understand what modules are. Modules is kind of a one-stop shop for all of your content, something that a student could go to and know the outline of your course from start to finish, top to bottom, in the order that you want everything to be, with due dates and the whole thing. The reason modules is unique or important is because we have different areas in the course. For example, we have assignments, we have discussions, we have different pages where we could put content for students to learn, study, etc. We have files, we have quizzes, right? And you can think of these different areas like assignments. You can think of this as a silo or a container where you could go to see all assignments. Similarly, you can look in discussions to see all of the discussions for the course, the pages, the quizzes, etc. However, they're not all together in one place. These are kind of separate containers for these individual items. Modules is the place where you could put all of these things together in order, start to finish. Right? So although the temptation might be to make it to where students can see these individual silos or areas, it's best practice to have modules be the only thing viewable and then have your content laid out in here in the proper order that you want students to see it in, by week, by chapter, by section, by module, however you want to break up these different sections for your course. So that being said, how do I build a module, right? Well, here is a module. I called it Getting Started, and I put some pages in here. I know these are pages because I recognize these icons, and I know this is a quiz because that's the icon for a quiz. Now, if you don't know the icons yet, that's fine, but you'll notice that when you have a module built out with content in it, you can collapse it so that you can more easily jump to different modules or content areas within your course. So let's build one real quick. So to build a module, we first need to be in the modules section for the course, and we want to click on the plus module button. So let's do that. Let's say that this is going to be our first module, and you can call it Module 1, Chapter 1, Section 1, Week 1, however you want to break up your course. So we're just going to call this, I don't know, Chapter 1. Okay, you can choose to publish your module and its content by clicking this Publish button. Okay, let's put some content in here. Let's say that the first thing that we want in this module is an overview, right? Introduce students to the content. So I'm going to click plus. And for general information, I'm going to add a page. This is kind of like a web page, if you want to think of it like that. When we select page, it's going to pull up a list of pre-created pages, any pages that exist in your course from which you could choose to place in the module, or you could choose to create a new page. So I'm going to select Create Page, and I'm going to call this Chapter 1 Overview. All right, so this is a page. I could go in here and edit it, but I'm just going to add a couple of other things here before I start going in and adding content to these things. I want to build out the structure of this module first. So here I have an overview page. After the students are introduced to the content, I want to present them some material. So to present material, I'm going to do another page. So I'm going to do Create Page. This one's not Chapter 1 Overview, but rather Chapter 1 Material. Okay, so you notice we have this Create Page line selected, and although there was some text pre-filled in here, you can change that and modify it. So we're creating a new page. This is the new page name. Add item. Great. They've got an overview. They're learning some material. After they learn material, what should they do? Maybe an assignment, or maybe I want them to discuss the material to make sure they understand it. So if I want them to discuss it, I'm going to choose to add a discussion here. And Similar to the last section, we can create a new topic, and if there are other discussions pre-created or that have already been created, they'll show up in a list here. So we're going to create a new topic. We're going to say Chapter 1, Material Discussion. Maybe. Right? After they discuss it, and I as an instructor have ensured that they understand well the concepts, the main concepts, maybe I want them to do an assignment. They need to interact with the material somehow. So let's add an assignment. So we're going to come up here, choose Assignment, Create Assignment. We're going to call this Chapter 1 Assignment. Add item. So notice how we're just building out the structure. After we have our structure for our module created, we can go in and modify each one of these, adding content, due dates, submission types, how I want the students to submit an assignment. I want them to do it online. Maybe this is a face-to-face class and I don't want an online designation, so I'll choose in person, so they'll turn that work in person in the classroom. So we'll look at all that here shortly. Okay, so we've got an overview, material to learn, discussion, ensuring that they understand the concepts, an assignment to engage with that content, and maybe we want to have an assessment after that. So I'm going to choose quiz, and I don't want to choose the syllabus quiz. I want to create a new quiz. So I'm going to select that. Now, I can choose to do what's called new quizzes or a classic quiz. And to choose in between, or to have the option between new quizzes and classic quizzes, you have to go to Settings, Feature Options, and make sure that your new quizzes option is turned on. So you would click that if you wanted the new quizzes option. And if you don't know what new quizzes is, you can check it out, see if you like it, or feel free to contact us in TELS and we can go over it with you. But for now, we're just know that you can choose between a classic quizzes and new quizzes option. And just a quick FYI, the classic quizzes will be sunsetted or go away. If you don't want to have to monkey around with transferring, a quiz from one older system to a newer one, make sure that you have that decided in your mind how you want to, do you want to just start building new quizzes? Make sure and do that. Anyway, so that's how you set that. Let's go back into modules, and we were going to add a quiz. So click plus, go to quiz, create quiz, and we're going to do a new quiz, and we're going to call it Chapter 1 Assessment, or add item. Great. Okay, so now we have a module and kind of a structure built out for it. So let's go in and see how we can add content. So for Chapter 1 overview, there are some recommendations on what you should include in an overview. It's good to include, basically provide clarity for students within the course. What do I mean by that? So not only am I going to introduce the Chapter 1, but I'm also going to mention how the content from Chapter 1 ties into the course level objectives, right? So in this chapter, we're going to learn X, Y, and Z. This is important because it will help us accomplish our course level objective, X, Y, and Z, right? And here's an outline of the activities we're going to have, and here's why they're important and how they will help you to reach the objectives not only of this module, but also for the course. So we're really spelling out the purpose of this content, this course, etc. All right, so let's just put some random information in here. So we might have overview and how it relates to course learning objectives, and maybe a list of activities, and maybe an explanation of how the activities help to achieve the module learning outcomes, and course learning outcomes. So anyway, it's just some information that you might want to include in there. I'm just going to save that real quick. Fantastic. Okay. So once that's done, I could choose to publish it or leave it, right? So that's another thing with modules. You can always decide when you want students to be able to see that content. Right now, students will not be able to view this content. But once I start publishing stuff, they'll start to be able to see it. And if it's empty, that's not good. Okay, so notice how these are all published. However, the module in which they reside is not published. So in order for all of these, even though they're published, students can't see them yet because the folder, if you will, in which they reside is not published. So we want to publish that for students to see it. Now students can see everything in there, and you can kind of get granular and say, okay, yeah, they can see the module, they can see these things, but I don't want them to see these things. Anyway, however you want to do it. All right, so we did an overview, chapter 1 material, much like it's a page, so same as, the other page that we just did, right? So we could say, have a material intro and then outline the material that they need to learn. Maybe there's a video here that they need to watch. Maybe there's an article link that they need to read. Or just maybe you have all of the text here in on this page that they need to read. However you decide to do it, you can put all the material here that they need for the chapter. Okay, so there's that. Back out to modules. So a discussion. So when building a discussion, you want some kind of prompt. So I'm going to click Edit, choose our prompt, type it in there. Students need to read, a chapter in the book, and they need to come to this discussion and answer these, have thought about how to answer a list of questions or a series of questions, and then discuss it with amongst their classmates. And so we'd put a prompt in here. We might choose to allow threaded replies. Make sure users reply to the prompt before they can see the replies of their classmates. This is kind of important. Maybe you don't want students to hop in here and see what everybody else has said, and then based on what everybody else has said, formulate their response without having done the reading in the first place. So you might check this so that they're forced to interact with the material before they post their replies. Many discussions are graded, so you might choose to have it be a graded discussion. Give it some points. We want it to be worth a certain number of points. Many instructors choose to have discussions be part of different groups, so you can choose to break these up into smaller groups. This gets into some more explanation that I don't want to cover here, but just know that you can have online discussions between specific groups of 3 or 4, however many students you want in the group. So right now it's set to just a general classroom discussion, so we're going to leave it there. Let's see. Choose who it's assigned to. Hopefully it's assigned to everyone. In some instances you want to assign it just to one student as opposed to the whole class. This is where you can learn to assign to specific individuals. Generally speaking, though, you want an assignment to be for everyone in the class. All right, due. Just choose a due date, and you can choose availability dates when students can click on and access that. You don't have to set availability dates or even due dates, but it is recommended to at least do a due date. So, all right, once you're done with all the parameters for the assignment or the discussion, we click Save, and students will see the prompt, and they can click Reply to answer the prompt. Once they answer their prompt, depending on the setting that you chose, then all of their classmates' responses will show up in a long list, and they can see what everybody else put. And you could require the student to click on reply to another student's post so that they have this back and forth engagement with what other students say. So that's discussions, okay? Let's take a quick look at assignments. Much like discussions, you click edit and you enter a prompt or instructions on what you want the student to do for the assignment. Work through the parameters for the assignment, give it points, decide how they are to turn in that homework or that assignment. This is an online platform, so it's common to put, select online. It's also okay to choose on paper if you're doing a face-to-face class. But it's important to create an assignment in order for there to be a column in the gradebook. If you do not create an assignment, then there will not be a column for that assignment in the gradebook. So if you're trying to build out a gradebook with columns for assignments, you do need to, at very minimum, come in here and choose, kind of go through, create an assignment, give it a name, and save. That will create the column in the gradebook. And you probably want to give it some points as well. All right, so if this were an online class, I could choose to allow students to enter their assignment via text entry or file upload. Maybe I want them to be able to record a video and turn that in. So it's up to you. Maybe you want to make it to where the student can type their assignment in a Google document and give you the link or URL for that web-based document. So anyhow, things to consider, lots of different submission types. Student annotation, you could upload a homework page and students could type on top of that homework page. So if you choose student annotation, that's what that is. It will have you upload a file and students can basically type on top of. They could even circle and draw on whatever file you upload here. So lots of things to consider with submission types for homework. Again, this is just an overview. We can go into the details of these things like student annotation later. Contact us and tell us. We'd love to go over it with you. Or you can just hop in here and play around with it and figure it out. Do I want students to have multiple attempts? Right? To do the assignment. Peer reviews. Again, if you don't want these things to be enabled or have to deal with them, don't choose it. But if peer review is going to be really beneficial to the assignment that you're working on, then again, we can go over these, or you can just select it and try and figure it out. If you're ever wondering how to figure out anything in Canvas, maybe it's Saturday night, we and tells aren't available and you don't want to bother anybody, you could always go to do a Google search for Canvas Guides Instructor. And what it'll pull up for you is this instructor guide, and it gives you a list of how to do everything in Canvas. How do I make discussions? How do I manage the gradebook? How do I manage the Canvas inbox? But all of this will help you know how Canvas works. So if you're self-motivated, you can do that. If you'd like to work with other people, contact us in Tells and we can go over this with you. All right, let's see. Let's go back. Let's go to. All right, so once that's all done, you click Save. Great. Let's jump back out to modules. So that's how you could create an assignment. If you ever want to see what a student sees, always feel free to jump into student view. This is a good practice so that you can see what's going on, right? So, All right, so right now, oh, they can't see that assignment. They can see the discussion. If they clicked on the discussion, they would see the prompt. They could click reply. Aha, this is what a student sees. They type in their answer and they click post reply. Aha, right? So then it forms a list of students' responses. Students could then come in and click reply on other students' posts. Right, so you have an initial response to the post and then a reply to somebody else's post. Right, so here's the original prompt, students reply to the prompt, and responses to other students. So anyway, you get the idea, hopefully. So if you ever want to leave student view, you be sure to click on leave student view here. All right, there we are. Let's go back out to modules. So assignment. So let's make those viewable. So again, if I were a student, I could click on student view. I could go down to the assignment. Right, so students going to see a lot of details for the assignment. They're going to see any instructions that you've typed. We didn't type any, but they would see it here. They would see, if there's a due date, how many points, how they need to submit their assignment or their assignment submission options. If they get additional, how many attempts they have, and that information's here. Once they're ready to start their assignment, they click on that. And so remember that we chose that students could do a file upload. They could upload a file. They could use their webcam. If they hand wrote out their assignment, they could click on use webcam, take a picture of that page, and submit that. They could type their answer. If they have, like I said, a web-based document and they want to give you the link to that document so that all you have to do when you're grading is click on that link, boom, it opens up their assignment in Google or whatever, and you can see what they typed up for the assignment. Media allows them to record or upload right from their computer. And then we also have some other options as far as Google and Office 365 go. So lots of ways students can submit that work. All right, so we're going to leave student view. Let's go back out to modules. And then finally we have assessments. So with assessments, we choose how many points it's going to be worth. And you'll notice that we chose the new quizzes. New quizzes are kind of like an external tool that are plugged into Canvas. And to use it, we come down here, and you can set the other parameters for it, such as the due date. But to build, we'll click on this build button, and it opens up this third-party application, right? And so we can build questions. And I don't want to go into the details of building quizzes themselves, but you can just click these plus buttons to add questions, modify the questions. You can always go back into a question by clicking the little pencil here to modify each individual question to build out your assessment. Once you have it tightened up the way that you'd like it, you can always return back to Canvas with this button up in the corner, and that'll take us back out. All right, so that's how we can build chapters or build modules and then place content in the modules. We can collapse them, open them. Another thing to note is assignment groups. Let's take a look at that real quick. So if I click over to assignments, I see that, you know how when you write your syllabus, you have typically different categories. So you'll have quizzes, assignments, lectures, participation, different categories that students can earn points for, right? So your quizzes might be worth 20% of the overall grade. Your assessments or quizzes or tests might be worth 50% of the overall grade. Participation, 15 to 20%, etc. So this is where you can manage all of those categories, right? So you have assignments, and maybe you want to add tests. right? And so we've got assignments, tests, we've got participation, right? So we have these different categories. And you want to make sure that all of your assignments are placed in the assignments category. All of your tests are placed in the test category. Participation activities, smaller things, make sure they're all put into the participation category, right? And you're going to make sure that and decide upon your point scale for assignments, for tests, and participation. Now you can manually decide all of the points for all of your tests, all of your assignments, etc., so that it calculates out exactly the way that you want. Or you could always come up here to the options button on the assignments page, choose assignment groups weight, and then set weights for each category. So maybe you want assignments to be worth 50%, I don't know, 40% of the overall grade, tests to be worth 50%, oops, and participation to be worth 10%. However you want to break it down, and then save. Now, since we've set percentages to these categories, what's neat about this is it doesn't matter how many points you put in here. Let's say that during the middle of the semester you need to add an assignment or remove an assignment. By adding or removing an assignment with these weighted categories, it's not going to throw off your overall point scale for students. So if your syllabus says assignments will be worth 40% of the grade, then it doesn't matter what you have in here, Canvas will calculate it out. We can go into the details of that later, but just know this is where you want to make sure that you have all of your categories created and each corresponding item in these categories. You don't have to do weighted grades, you can if you choose. But this is an important thing to note. It's behind the scenes, students don't see it, and a lot of times instructors either don't know about it, know how it works. This is super important. So be sure and know about that. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to contact us in TELS. We would love to help you build your class or go over any of this content in more depth. So that's just kind of an overview of building modules, placing content in them, and managing a lot of the content management for your course. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening.